I feel like I'm going to die. My time has come. My youth is just a memory. Everything seems like hazy recollections in my mind.
The hardest part to admit at this age is how many decisions I postponed, not because I couldn't make them, but because I was waiting to feel ready. Ready to speak honestly, ready to change careers, ready to leave situations that slowly hollowed me out. That feeling never came. Readiness is a myth. Time doesn't prepare you, it tests you. I watched years pass the way you watch scenery from a moving car. Familiar, repetitive, comforting, and suddenly, without ceremony, I was old. Not dramatically old, just quietly slower. My body didn't collapse, it negotiated. Knees complained, memory hesitated, energy became selective. And with that physical slowing came a brutal clarity. There is no extra life waiting behind this one. Here's another truth people avoid. Most regret isn't about what you did wrong. It's about what you never tried. I don't lie awake thinking about my biggest failures. I lie awake thinking about conversations I avoided, risks I talked myself out of, moments when I felt something real stirring inside me and chose convenience instead. Those are the ghosts that age brings with it. I also learned that approval is an expensive addiction. I spent too many years adjusting myself to fit expectations that didn't even belong to me. Society praises stability, politeness, reliability, but it rarely asks whether you're alive inside. By the time I realized I had been living carefully rather than honestly, the habit was already ingrained. Comfort is easy to enter and very hard to leave. As friends aged and some passed away, another truth emerged. No one remembers you for how busy you were. They remember how present you were, how you listened, how you made them feel seen. The resumes, the titles, the endless stress, none of that survived the room when someone was gone. What survived were moments, ordinary ones, shared silence, laughter, small kindnesses. Aging strips away illusions fast. You stop pretending you'll get around to it. You realize that relationships don't sustain themselves automatically. That love without attention decays. That resentment grows best in silence. I learned too late that saying what matters feels risky only until the day you realize silence costs more. The cruel irony is this. Wisdom often arrives when your energy to act on it is limited. That's the deal life makes with you. You get clarity at the price of time. Which is why I'm saying this now, as plainly as I can. Don't wait to become yourself. Don't assume you'll fix things later. Later is not a location. It's a story we tell ourselves to feel safe. I'm not bitter. I'm grateful I lived long enough to understand this much. But if I could compress 80 years into one sentence, it would be this. The days you delay living honestly are the days you never get back. Watch your life closely. It's moving faster than you think. I'll continue because there's more that only becomes clear when the calendar has turned against you. Another truth that took me far too long to face is that time doesn't just pass. It quietly edits your options. When you're young, life feels wide. You think you can pivot anytime, reinvent yourself at will, start over clean. But year by year, choices harden. Responsibilities stack. Habits calcify. Not because life is cruel, but because repetition builds gravity. Eventually, changing direction costs more energy than you have. I used to believe aging was mostly physical, that your back hurts, your eyes weaken, your hands shake a little. That's the obvious part. What no one warns you about is how your world shrinks if you let it. You stop meeting new people. You stop being curious about unfamiliar ideas. You stop arguing, not because you've reached peace, but because you're tired. And tiredness, if you're not careful, turns into quiet surrender. I've sat alone at night thinking about how often I confused endurance with virtue. I stayed in situations longer than I should have because I thought persistence made me strong. In truth, sometimes persistence is just fear of disruption. Walking away earlier would have saved years of slow erosion. There's no medal for suffering longer than necessary. Here's something else people won't tell you. Most people don't fail dramatically. They fade gradually. They don't wake up one day ruined. They wake up one day disconnected from their younger self, from their dreams, from the person they once promised to become. That kind of loss doesn't make noise. It just settles in. I also learned that loneliness isn't about being alone. It's about being unknown. I spent years surrounded by people while never fully letting myself be seen. I thought that was maturity. It wasn't. It was self-protection masquerading as wisdom. Real connection requires risk, and risk feels irresponsible when you're trying to look put together. But without it, life becomes emotionally flat. One of the crueler lessons of age is realizing how little control you ever truly had. Careers end suddenly, bodies fail unexpectedly. People change without asking your permission. You can do everything right and still lose what you love. That's not pessimism, that's reality. The only real control you have is how honestly you live while things are still intact. I've watched younger people obsess over optimization, productivity systems, perfect routines, endless self-improvement. Let me tell you something from the far side of time. No one wishes they'd answered more emails. What you miss later are unstructured moments, conversations that wandered, days that weren't efficient but were alive. There's also this illusion that pain diminishes with age. It doesn't. It changes shape. Regret is quieter than heartbreak, but it lasts longer. You don't cry about it every day. You just carry it. Like a weight you forget is there until you try to move fast and realize you can't. I don't say this to scare you. I say it because urgency is a gift, not a threat. Feeling the finiteness of life isn't depressing. It's clarifying. It tells you what matters and what never did. It strips away nonsense. It makes honesty feel necessary instead of optional. If you're listening to this and you're younger than me, and you almost certainly are, don't wait for certainty. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait for everything to line up neatly. Life is messy, brief, and indifferent to your plans. Act anyway, speak anyway, choose anyway. Because one day, sooner than you expect, you'll look back and realize this truth too. The life you end up with is built from the moments you didn't think were important at the time. There's a deeper layer to all of this that only surfaced for me very late, long after the noise of ambition quieted down and the applause I once imagined never came. It's the realization that most of what drives us early in life is borrowed desire. We chase things because we saw others chase them. We want recognition because we were taught it meant safety. We pursue status because we confuse being noticed with being valued. By the time you figure this out, decades can be gone. I spent much of my life trying to justify myself to an invisible audience. Even when no one was watching, I behaved as if someone might be keeping score. That constant self-surveillance drains you slowly. You don't notice it when you're young because energy feels infinite. But as the years pile up, you realize how much mental space you wasted managing an image instead of inhabiting your own life. One of the strangest experiences of aging is watching your memories become more real than your future. At some point, anticipation fades and recollection takes over. You start measuring time backward instead of forward. You don't say someday anymore. You say remember when. And that shift is subtle, but it changes how you feel in your bones. It makes every remaining day heavier, more deliberate, sometimes unbearably precious. I also learned that forgiveness is misunderstood. People talk about it like it's a gift you give others. It isn't. Forgiveness is an administrative task for your own mind. Unresolved resentment takes up space like old furniture in a small house. You can live with it, sure, but you'll keep bumping into it in the dark. Letting go doesn't mean excusing what happened. It means deciding that your remaining years deserve better tenants. Another hard truth. You don't really know yourself until life disappoints you repeatedly. Success hides flaws. Comfort delays self-awareness. It's loss, failure, and boredom that reveal who you are when no narrative is working in your favor. I didn't like everything I found when that happened. But clarity, even when it's unpleasant, is still a form of freedom. I used to believe that wisdom was something you accumulated, that if you lived long enough, answers would simply arrive. That's wrong. What actually happens is that questions change. You stop asking how to win and start asking how to endure without becoming bitter. You stop asking what's impressive and start asking what's sustainable. And most importantly, you start asking who you can be at peace with when you're alone. There's an illusion that life is about making the right big decisions. Marriage, career, where you live. Those matter, but they're overrated. What shapes a life far more are the small, repeated choices. How you speak when you're tired, how you treat people who can't benefit you, how you respond when no one is watching. Character isn't forged in dramatic moments. It's built quietly, daily, almost invisibly. I've noticed that as people age, many become either softer or harder. Very few stay the same. Hardness often comes from unprocessed grief, things never mourned properly. Softness comes from accepting that everyone is improvising just like you were. I regret the years I chose hardness, mistaking it for strength. It cost me closeness I didn't realize I'd miss so much later. Another thing no one tells you, your body becomes a historian. It remembers stress you forgot, fear you ignored, exhaustion you normalized. You can't outthink it forever. Eventually, it demands payment, not all at once, but persistently. Learning to listen to it earlier would have saved me years of quiet damage. When people talk about legacy, they often mean accomplishments. That's not how it works. Your real legacy is emotional. It's how people feel when they think of you, calm or tense, safe or guarded, seen or overlooked. Long after details fade, those impressions remain. Knowing this earlier would have changed how I showed up in rooms. There's also a painful clarity that comes with realizing how little time you actually spent being present. So many meals eaten while distracted, so many conversations half listened to, so many sunsets mentally postponed. Presence sounds simple, but it's one of the hardest disciplines there is, and it becomes infinitely harder once regret enters the picture. If I could pass on one final hard-earned understanding, it would be this. Life doesn't ask you to be extraordinary. It asks you to be sincere, to mean what you say, to say what you mean, to align your actions with your values before exhaustion forces the issue. Sincerity won't make you famous. It won't protect you from pain, but it will let you age without feeling like a stranger to yourself. And that at this stage feels like the rarest kind of peace. I'm 70 years old now, and if there's one thing I've learned after 8 decades of breathing, choosing, failing, trying again, and watching time quietly take things away, it's this. Life does not reward potential. It only responds to action. That's the hard truth most people don't want to hear until it's already too late.